When I originally saw this thing back at Computex last year, my jaw dropped to the ground. The FLP02 was a beautiful homage to cases of old, so beautiful in fact we actually gave it one of our awards for the show, and Silverstone finally sent one over for us to check out in more detail, because this thing truly has a lot going for it, not just in the retro look. I mean, at first glance, you would not be able to tell that this thing came from 2026, even if there are some hints. The front panel comes across very convincing, including things like this super satisfying red power button right here, a lock, and yes, it does actually work and prevents your PC from turning on if it's locked. A reset button, something I've been complaining many modern PC cases don't have, so it looks like we have to go back into the 90s to fetch some again. And also, yes, you've seen that correctly, a turbo button. Though of course that's one of the things where they had to get a bit creative. Obviously it's not going to reduce your CPU speed down to just 4.77 MHz. Instead what it does is just boost all of your fans up to 100%. And by the way, you get a constant readout of the fan speeds with this little display right here. But you might be asking yourself, where's the actual front I/O? Well, don't worry, because to not break your immersion with all of your fancy modern USB stuff, they are actually hidden away in this front panel, where you get two Type A ports at 5 gigabits each, a 10 gigabit Type C port, and audio jack. Though when you look closer, you also see other stuff that do very much give away that it is a modern case. Like for example the fact that the whole top of it is ventilated and has a dust filter, so your PC can actually breathe. However, then there's also one critical detail where this thing resembles cases of days gone by a bit too much, and that's with the fact that you do not have any kind of see-through side panel, be it glass or even just a piece of acrylic. No, it's completely blank, it's just a plain sheet of metal. I get that's part of the look, you don't really have that kind of stuff going on in the kind of 1990s when this thing is from, but still, most people have gotten used to the fact that you can see the PC components. Even if you don't care about like RGB or whatever, many people just want to see the parts that they paid a lot for. I wish that they maybe at least had some option where you can just have just the side panel with a window, or hey, maybe if you're really desperate, then you can just, well, make your own by just cutting into this, well, side panel yourself. I mean, that's always an option. And this thing isn't Silverstone's first rodeo. They already had the FLP01, though apart from, of course, the different form factor, they also took the opportunity to really improve on a lot of things since then. They do at least use thumb screws everywhere when compared to the boring old non-Polex screws used in the FLP01. And when you do take off the side panel, you see plenty of goodies hiding inside, like for example the fact that you do have space for vertical GPU mounting, though there is no riser included, and it's only 2 slots, so if your card's bigger than that, then tough luck. Though I guess that's an improvement over the 1 slot horizontal, or well, I guess vertical mounting in the FLP01, which will work well with my GeForce 2, and that's about it. Plus you also get an integrated GPU anti-sag bracket, a fan hub with already pre-attached cables, though unfortunately they're just very clumsily tied together with just a very basic plastic zip tie, and even 2 removable hard drive bays. Yes, they're in the front chamber in this case. One thing that it obviously didn't carry over is the old AT design with having the PSU at the top. Instead, we've seen other more modern cases do that instead, funnily enough, like the Hyde X50. As you can see, it can get pretty cramped here. It does not support anything larger than ATX anyway, and if your graphics card is a bit too big, then hey, you can always just remove this hard drive base, for example. Though there isn't too much room for cable management either. It's a pretty standard size for a mid-tower, and it is just slightly bigger than my Fractal Pop Air, for example, but still, because of how much is going on, it can get a bit tight. Over in the back, there's plenty of stuff of note as well, like for example, these 2 2.5-inch bays behind the motherboard tray, as well as space for 2 additional 3.5-inch drives at the very bottom. So that's on top of the ones in the front chamber. Then there's also our 5.25-inch expansion bays. So often I complain that we don't even get a single one on modern PC cases, and here you have 3. By default, they're covered up by these things, which are supposed to kind of look like floppy drives, but you can just easily take them off and put your optical drive or even real floppy drives in there as well. Though you can get pretty creative and take all of them off and replace them with stuff like hard drive cages, for example, if you want. Though of course a problem with the modern industry is the fact you can't get too much to fit into your 5¼ inch bays in beige nowadays, especially if you want to run more modern standards like having, say, a Blu-ray drive or USB expansion using anything faster than like USB 2. So apart from just the retro factor, I hope you're starting to see exactly what makes this case so special, and that's the fact that it has stuff that so many other cases nowadays do not have for one dumb reason or another. It is extremely utilitarian in nature, and it has so many great things that we just don't get anymore. You have stuff like an actual reset button, you have tons of spaces to mount hard drives and SSDs, and not to mention the plethora of 5¼ inch bays right here. So it doesn't matter if you need, say, one optical drive for just regular daily use, or 3 because you have some industrial CD burning operation going on. This thing is perfect for that, which is great because, well, let's be honest, many people will probably not want to have the daily driver PC in this because of, again, stuff like the lack of any kind of side window into the case, but also how limited it is when it comes to cooling. Well, don't get me wrong, it's not bad by any means. With you being able to mount up to 2 120mm fans at the front, up to 2 140s or 3 120s at the top, and up to a 140 at the back, with it coming with 3 of Silverstone's Vista 120mm 2000 RPM fans. And thankfully all of the intakes are properly filtered with real fine meshes. And obviously, given the design, there isn't too many places where they could have added more fans. Sure, they could have maybe used the side panel for extra airflow there, that would have been decent. And if they really wanted to, then I guess they could have added an extra fan at the very bottom underneath that hard drive cage, but whatever. And as you can imagine, water cooling wise, it's also not the greatest case for that. While there is technically a tiny space between the fans and the body of the case at the very front, it is around 12mm, and I'm sad to report there are no radiators that thin. So again, while it's very limited compared to many other cases nowadays, it's still good enough with the included fans. And if you actually populate all of the fan slots with some high quality fans, again, absolutely nothing too worrying there either. But if you really go with some super hot parts, then some issues could start to appear. The main thing that is kind of disappointing is the accessories, because they're just kind of there. It's a generic plastic baggie filled with more generic plastic baggies with nothing that special. Pretty much the only standout is just those keys to unlock the power button, and that's it. Doesn't even come with things like, say, Velcro cable ties. So then, how much would this entire exercise of wallowing in nostalgia cost you? Well, it's going to set you back $240. Definitely very expensive what you get. Though keep in mind that what you also get is a beautifully engineered, beautifully designed, and very well built case that is just unlike anything you see in the market. And while many people probably won't use it for their modern daily driver gaming PC build, but if you're doing some kind of side media build, for example, and you need plenty of expansion bays and hard drive space inside, then you can totally do it for that. Or even if you just want to build a PC for retro gaming using old school parts inside, but you just want a more modern PC case so that the process of actually building inside of it isn't going to make you want to rip your hair out, unlike many other cases that actually came from the 90s. Yes, it is wallowing in nostalgia, however it does it right and actually offers you stuff that many modern PC cases nowadays do not, and that I will forever be salty about. So if you want to get this beautiful thing yourself, then our links to it will be down in the video description below, alongside a Patreon, because even a single $1 a month truly goes a long way. Plus, huge thanks to Gavin Burns, Justin Rage, Yellow Roniak, Village Roker, another pseudonym, Maxim, The Stream, Allcraft, and Mason Magruder. But anyway, that's what it is. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.